What's up, Digidestins? This is Kyle D, better known as RideMyAvatar, and today we are going over none other than just last week's major data. So we're avoiding regionals because that skews the data. We are just looking at a bunch of locals tops and see how many are going about there. If you want to be able to tag on Twitter right now, put hashtag DigiTops. That'll be for me to be able to pull your information from Twitter as well, or Instagram. So without further ado though, let's dive in the video and talk about it. So first off, let's take a look. A big change with restriction list 1. We have basically 5 big boys at the top. Megidra still putting in work with the restrictions in place is kind of surprising to me, but it gathered 10 tops over the course of the week. So guys, Megidra did not go anywhere, and we do know that the restriction wasn't enough, but it definitely brought down the birds a little bit. The birds only kind of snuck in for 3 wins in that week run, so just something to think about. You had Gallant, you had Galaxy, you had Royal Knights. Royal Knights did not get slapped down enough, and then you have Omnimon taking the top. So these are your like big 5 of the locals, and they're doing quite well. But again, even on higher events like regionals, we have Mugen kind of doing some crazy shenanigans, and then we did have like Sakuya even just still being able to top in the events even with the restrictions in place. So people are adapting and starting to learn. But, you know, just taking a look here, we got even just purple hybrid Sakuyamon. Zafaga is just really cool. You know, you got Galactic, you have Mastemon, you have Genkumon just coming in. So you can kind of just see that these guys were just a couple wins away from just making into the top, getting into the top 1, you know, the top 5 category. But again, these decks started putting in work once the restriction list came up to be, and even like the adventure deck, which again is still probably the notoriously best budget deck to get into the game with, really good. Then you have Sakuyamon, you have Imperial Drammon, you have Machine Drammon, you know, even Millennium, which was probably one of the worst things to bring up into the format. But again, with the Growl engine still kind of intact, the deck still gets to play out how it was already doing. You know, you have 7 Great Demon Lords. You got Fenry Luga doing some crazy shenanigans. Again, people have adopted this like new style version where it's playing the dog engine, and it kind of just leads into actually being viable, it seems. Then you have Armors kind of doing some stuff. You have Kaguya, you know, Sinril. You have Diaboromon. You have Seriousmon, you know, Gammon deck. You have Lord Nightmon. You have, you know, Mother Eater deck. You have Rangumon. Like I said, the bird deck is still around. Ancient Greymon. Magna X is still doing stuff. Hunters, Levia, you know, Ancient Garuru, Red, Purple, and Pale Drammon. You also do have our good friend Albat Core, Dark Knightmon, All Force Drammon, and then DM Machine Drammon, plus the Cyber Sleuth deck. And then you do have Excel kind of sneaking in some wins as well. So again, it definitely seems like the restriction did open up a little bit, but again, the big boys are still kind of on top. The only deck that kind of fell off pretty quickly was Sakuyamon. It still made it into the 3rd tier though, just something to think about. Now let's take a look here. Again, we use data from all across, from Digimon CG Guide. You know, we have, you know, Digimon Card, Digital Gate, Digital Gate Open, and even Digimon Meta. So just some, you know, Digimon Meta are all great resource tools for you guys to kind of use to get this information yourselves. But again, I just like giving this information so you guys can have access to it. And then again, use hashtag DigiTops to kind of just get that information going. Right now, again, here's 2nd place Dark Knightmon list out of 7 players. Lost to Omekamon, which is not terrible to take into account. Again, Dark Knightmon seems to be starting to gain some traction, especially even before the new set drops. And you know, with this combination of that, it's starting to sneak in some wins. Maybe it might actually have some chances going forwards into major events, but we'll have to see what really happens at the end of the day. Because again, a little bit can go a long way, right? I mean, there is infinite possibilities of how the deck will play out. And again, they have ways of comboing with the, you know, the tamer interactions that, you know, pops the gain to memory. So it does have some great value and tools. Now, here is the Fenry Luga deck. So it is playing the dog engine. It has Chimeramon in there to, you know, Jogress once you start playing some extra bodies, but it is playing Reapermon, which again, if you don't know what Reaper does, which we can definitely check out, Digimon Card Dev. Let's take a look at Reaper. Reaper. Let's see. Reaper? No. Yeah, it would have been Reapermon. There it is. So this card here has collision and blocker, and when an effect digivolves your opponent's Digimon, de-digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon. Delete one, on deletion, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with a 4 cost. Delete one of your opponent's Digimon or Tamer with a play cost 4 or less. So just something to think about there. Again, it's kind of cool that they're teching this in, and again, interaction and be able to do Tamer removal. They are playing one Levia, but again, it's up to you how you want to build deck building, right? There's no real wrong answer, but it's kind of cool to see where they're going with it, right? Now, here's Mugen. So, not Mugen, Millenniumon. So again, a lot of players are questioning like what's going on with this deck. Again, it seems Wicked God, the Wicked God emerges, which is the new card that was added. A combination of revive from the darkness plus the Chimera, being able to pop them with the Machine Dramon, kind of get yourself into a Jogress Millenniumon, which again can lead to being very scary for some decks to interact with. I know it wasn't many players 6, but again, just being able to take a look at like thought processes here and stuff like that. The Growl engine was definitely a great resource tool for this deck, and having it intact definitely keeps this deck a little bit more live and able to do a little bit of shenanigans. Now here we have Rena. If you guys know, All Force is still able to do some stuff. I mean, this is part of a 3v3, so I wanted to showcase just a, you know, All Force deck in general. A lot of players don't know where they're going with it. They do have one Hankumon that says that basically can't have its target redirected, but all in all, just a more standard list you would find with All Force. And again, it's up to the player how they want to build it, right? Now, we do have Virus Imperial Dramon doing some shenanigans as well. Again, great deck with Demonic Disaster, being able to restand and or even just help self-pop your stuff so that, again, you can trigger your on deletions and hopefully just combo off again. And if you're able to do that, your opponent's just going to have a bad time. Miss Memory Boost plus Purple Memory Boost. Always great cards, Analog Youth being Analog Youth. But all in all, the deck has a lot going for it in the right direction. This deck didn't get touched by the restriction list, and it's able to play through in certain ways that your opponent just, if you're at the right time at the right moment and you've hit them enough, you can just clear house and just shut them down for the turn, right? You have ways of gaining extra security attack. You have ways of basically saying, you know what? I'm going to just shut off your options and check. So again, all stuff leads into a great synergy what this deck can do. And it's always scary when this deck pops off, because again, you never know when it's going to. But when it does, sometimes that snowball effect will just lead you to lose. Now, we do have Albat playing one Chimera, one Parabolic Junk. So again, with that restriction, they were trying to slow down Albat for some reason. I get that they didn't want to abuse it, because again, you can just choose what Digimon dies. Your opponent can't stop that. But again, deck plays the long game very nicely. Again, once you get into Negamon, 4 times the Battle Core now is live, and you can just basically have your opponent have a bad day. You know, granted, Garnet memory boost to help search, basically get your Gallantmon or any of your black pieces, which is nothing wrong in the slightest. And the tie to kind of make your battle core even bigger. Just keyword soup on this card, and it's just scary when it comes live. Now, Sakuyamon, just taking a look here, they are playing Sakuya X at 2, 1 Sakuya, Kazuamon, and then just 3 Ruin modes. We covered this a little bit last week just to see where the restriction was kind of going, but it's kind of good to see where it's going now. Now, we do have none other than... Oh, we already kind of talked about this, but this is another version of Fenry Luga, but they are teching in 1 Boltmon as an option just for when digivolving on deletion. Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon, then delete up to one of their level 4 or lowers. It's got blocker. It's cute. There is preferences on how deck building goes. As you know, there's no real wrong way to kind of do this, so just make sure you're ready for when deck building calls and just go with what you think you might need for pieces. I don't care. Machine Drammon doing some Machine Drammon shenanigans. They are playing Candlemon, which is not a bad for an on deletion. If your opponent has 1 or less memory, draw a card. If your opponent has 1 or more, gain a memory. So not bad if, you know, you hit a Hammer Spark or something like that, and, you know, oh, not even a Hammer Spark. You're not going to hit a Hammer Spark. It doesn't matter at that point. Depends on situation. It's not a bad, you know, when you're swinging in, you know it's going to die anyway. So take care of it there. Proto Giza, it's not a bad card either, just for, you know, evenly trashing cards in, because you need to get those level 5 into your trash as soon as possible so you can combo off with your Mugans. No, nothing out of the ordinary here. I do like the fact they're playing 4 Analog Man EX9, and I don't know, maybe it should have been a 3-4 reverse, but then Supreme Connection also just to get those Machine Drammons in for cheap. Now, again, Gammon's up in here. I think it's got a lot of talent at the local level, and it has a great surprise factor against a lot of players that are not ready and know what this deck does. Again, being able to get into Paroxymon or just having Seriousmon live can lead to being just devastating for some matchups, because again, Seriousmon can apply good pressure on its own right. So it's kind of good to see that the deck is standing on its 2 legs and stuff. I mean, 14 players is nothing to scoff at getting first with Gammon. Diaboromon's doing quite well for itself. I don't know how well it's going to do in a couple weeks with the Wizardmon coming in, because Wizardmon can shut this deck down. But again, confident pilot, very strong pilot, can just be really good with the deck. So maybe we'll see if some Diaboromon players will start evolving and changing up their list a bit. Galaxy, this one's a little more, it has Grace Nova in it, but you know, it's up to you how you want to build the deck, right? There's no real wrong answer. You know, you have Mirage, you have Hexablow, you have Diana, you have Imperial Drammon, Paladin Mode Ace. You know, all good pieces that just can lead to your opponent just having a bad time. Up to you how you want to deck build, right? There's no real wrong answer on how to build Galaxy, because again, it's such a toolboxy deck. It's like other decks too that have that toolbox engine. But again, your searchers most of the time will not be able to grab your level 6s, because, you know, you have Mirage, you have Hexablow, you have Paladin Mode Ace. These, you know, 1, 2, 4 cards can easily be bottom decked, and I've bottom decked them very comfortably multiple times in searching. So again, deck's strong, but I wouldn't say it's like tier broken that everybody kind of wants to make it out to be. Now, we do have Adventures. Adventures kind of doing some stuff is always good. There's just this Adventure style where it kind of gets into Alter S, but there's also the other Adventure style where it's green base that kind of just does a lot of stuff with the lilies and stuff. That just very powerful skill because of being able to spend all your opponent's 5,000 DP or lower for every 2 colors of your tamers. Return 1 of their suspended Digimon to the bottom of the deck. So again, being able to suspend and kind of remove threats off the board is always good in this game. Ice Wall is spicy though. Now we do have Kaguya Puppets. Again, I can't wait for the promo reprint because that is kind of needed. At the end of the day, it's just inevitable that you really want to have the promo kind of go live and just go to town with it. But again, there's no real wrong answer how to build Cinderella with, you know, Kaguya. Players will play it how they want to at the end of the day, and that's fine. But again, at your own discretion, build the deck how you feel like it. There's no real wrong answer. There's no true answer, but being able to have puppets be extremely well into the format again, it's always good to see. You know, in the Evo Cup, 16 players, first place, not bad. But all in all, taking a look here, I do like how this turned out. Guys, let me know down in the comments. Did you guys enjoy the video? Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you next one. Peace.